Yes, you're out on the road right now. You're out with Tobymac, and man, it's kind of an interesting tour. I mean, it's not your normal tour. There's a lot of worship on this tour, some stories, stuff like that. Can you tell me about a little bit about the ideas behind this tour?
I think it really started. I was on Hits Deep earlier this year.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a lot of fun on that tour, and Toby and I, kind of known each other, but never really got a chance to spend a lot of time together. And I've always been a huge fan, not just of his music, but really him in terms of his leadership and his kind of sense of vision. And he, turns out was a huge fan of my music, and so. We started talking about the idea of doing something together, and I think at first he was thinking that he'd be acoustic, and kind of come down to my level in a way, but it sort of ends up working out that I'm kind of the more acoustic portion of the night. It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to unplug Tobymac. You know what I mean? You're either just there's. You can't do every song as just one guy with a beatbox, and you know what I mean?
Right.
So, but, it actually makes for a very dynamic night, I always say, in any good concert, you want to have peaks and valleys. You want to have high points and low points, and I think that that's definitely what's been constructed, and it's real great. It's been real awesome. There's a new artist as well, Ryan Stevenson, who's out, who kind of opens up the night, and he's got this like funky auto-tune type thing with his voice that sounds really cool, with just an acoustic guitar and that. It just kind of sets them apart a little way. It's a neat thing, and and then. For me, it's just an opportunity. Once again, I think it's always been I do find it entertaining, but it's always a thing of like people going, I didn't know you were the guy who wrote that song and that song and that song, and so
right.
It's like sort of an opportunity for that to happen all over again. And but it's great. And Toby's band Diversity are an amazing group of musicians, and they back me up on a couple of songs, and so. It's real great, and I get to play electric guitar and Made to Love, which is like a real fun moment for me.
That's
so
awesome.
Yeah,
nice. And you guys it's a pretty lengthy tour too. I mean, it goes all the way till like the middle to the end of next month. I mean, you're on the road for a long time.
Yeah, December 14th. Yeah.
I mean, you're in Texas tonight. It looks like, and then you got 2 or 3 days. Then you're off. Obviously, you're off. I think your birthday is coming up, and I think you're off on your birthday.
I am. Yes, I'll be home for that.
Which is going to be nice. But do you have to do any extra prep for a tour this long and extenuous?
It's just try to hang out with your kids as much as possible before you go.
Nice.
But my wife and I are kind of used to this, and we're. I've been in Nashville for 2 years now, and so we're kind of used to entering into this kind of season of this rhythm of life of being home for a few days and being gone for a few days. And
right.
My wife has help with the nanny, and then my son's in school 3 days a week now, and so it's been pretty awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
And as your career goes on, I imagine you kind of map a tour out a little bit differently, where you're not on the road seven days in a row. You can be on the road for 3 or 4 days and then go home for a couple. And as your career goes on, you have the freedom to do that a lot, which has got to be kind of nice. But you're out on the road right now. You're also supporting All the People Said Amen, which is an outstanding record. It's been the best performing record of your career so far. Very dynamic and very deep record. Can you tell me a little bit about making that record?
The heart of it was, so many people had said, first of all, hey, I didn't know you were the guy who wrote this song and this song and this song and this song. And so it was an opportunity to kind of put all those songs together, not in a greatest hits fashion as much as a live fashion, which is where they all connected. I've always had these kind of two sides of me. One is, basically a person who's loves writing congregational worship songs, and then someone who grew up loving live music and rock and roll and sort of the American side of that. And so all the people said amen become, the live show is really a place where those two things came together. And so that kind of became, in some ways, I think, the sort of the context for that whole album, and then adding a couple of new songs with it. And it's been great in the sense because it really was a calling card for me, and so it's pretty awesome.
When it comes to the congregational style, more worship style, playing those songs live have got to be just dynamic, because people connect with those songs so well. You hear a lot of those songs in churches now and stuff like that, and so people when they come to the shows, they've already connected with the songs on an even higher and deeper level than they would other styles of music. So performing those songs live has got to be an extreme moment for you sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, it can, but I think once again, like I think the Christian life isn't music's this great analogy for our prayer life, and there are mountains and valleys even in our prayer life.
Yeah.
And there are moments to stop and reflect, and I think our faith is supposed to be something that's rooted here in the earth and rooted in the everyday, and help us to do a better job of being good members of our communities and good parents and good spouses, and so I think I've tried to, in my music, sort of in some ways kind of write about all those different things.
Have there been times where you're performing a song live and you connected with it in a deeper way than you did when maybe you originally wrote the song?
Oh, all the time. I mean, Lord, I Need You is a great example of that. I wrote the song, I knew it was a powerful song, but when I became a parent, the song really kind of, I think, broke through in my heart in a whole different way, and that was exciting.
Awesome. So after the tour you're on right now, I mean, obviously that's going to take you to pretty much the end of the year, really.
Yeah.
Are we looking at maybe a small solo tour around that time, or maybe taking the rest of the year off for the holidays and family, and then kicking it back up for 2015? Maybe some new music in 2015?
Yeah, I have a new album coming out in March.
Nice. Awesome. What can fans expect? Something similar to All the People Said Amen, or maybe in a different direction? What can fans expect from the upcoming record?
Yeah, it's the brand new record's a studio record. Still working on the title of it, but it really, the first single for it is a song called "Because He Lives," which is kind of out right now, and it's sort of loosely based on the Bill Gaither song, of the same title, and more so like it's a brand new song that was inspired by that in a way, and I think this new record's really exploring the notion of, God. We are, as believers, we're called to be the saints of God, because He called us the saints of God. Yet we're all still sinners because of our human condition, and there's a real tension between those two things. And a lot of times we tend to fall into the trap to think that we're not both. We're one person, and sometimes we tend to think, oh, well, I sort of oscillate back and forth between being a saint and being a sinner, and it's like, no, you're only one person, and I think that's an important thing to remember, because it's one of the big quotes that's inspired me for this next record is actually a quote by Oscar Wilde, the poet or playwright, who said that every saint has a past and every sinner has a future.
Interesting.
And I think when we live our lives as believers transparent enough to say, hey, I'm not perfect, I have a past, I have mistakes I've made. But we also live our lives like a sinner who believes that they have a future. I think it inspires other people, once again, to start on this journey of faith. And, our churches, can sometimes be a lot of different things, but they really are supposed to be shelters for the weak, shelters for the weary, and people who are worn down. So I think a lot of the themes of this record is really inspiring people to that.